So the corruption gets even worse than what I thought, as if any of us thought it could get worse. But let me explain, because this is in regards to my last couple videos. One of the strongest, well, I think it is the biggest nursing union contracts in the state of Illinois is with University of Illinois, Chicago. The chief nursing officer, if you didn't see my other two videos, you may be lost on this one, but prior to this one, I mean, that I posted. The chief nursing officer that I spoke about that abused a 16-year-old kid, emotionally abused him, she came from UIC, the psychiatry department. I think she was a professor there too. She was a forensic nurse, NP. She's still working now. She's not there. But she's still, yeah, think about that. Because all of the people at the head of the professional organizations and associations of nursing would call her an expert. Call her trash. Look, let me just say this too. They didn't just ask this kid questions. He wrote it down. He wrote it down for the tech after he blew up on the unit and tore everything apart. Because he told this chief nursing officer, if you come near me again, I will kill you. Because he knew what she was doing. And they did more than ask questions. They bribed this kid. They bribed this kid with food. They bribed this kid with Klonopin, which is a benzodiazepine, which is addictive, and he was there for addictions. To keep him quiet. He wrote it down. So this nurse, this chief nursing officer that did this, she came from University of Illinois, Chicago. And Illinois Nurses Association has the biggest contract with that hospital. Okay? So just keep that in mind. Now, in the late 1980s and the early 1990s, the Department of Children and Family Services faced legal challenges, including a class action lawsuit from federal investigators, advocates for children, and the American Civil Liberties Union, alleging inadequate and poor quality mental health services for youth in its custodies. These challenges were settled through a consent decree in which DCFS agreed to initiate major reforms in the state child welfare system. As part of the consent decree, the University of Illinois at Chicago's Department of Psychiatry was identified by both DCFS and the plaintiffs as an independent expert to help implement the system change efforts, and an innovative collaboration was crafted between UIC and DCFS. Since 1993, DCFS officials and UIC faculty and staff have been working together to improve clinical outcomes for foster children with psychiatric and behavioral disorders, resulting in the formation of the Behavioral Health and Welfare Program. UIC. And they did. I remember them coming in every so often. There would be three of them, three experts, really experts of no moral compass from UIC that would come in and be oversight. They would, make sure, we're doing everything right. We're doing restraints. We're following all the paperwork and do whatever it is. They would come in like they're great, they're so grand. And she was one of them. Until they brought her over as a chief nursing officer, which was right around the time that the whole union thing started being talked about, because the prior chief nursing officer was upset about how she was let go, and she contacted Illinois Nurses Association. How convenient. And so that's how the ball got rolling. But here's the thing. Do you think for one moment that somebody who was on staff, it was a professor at University of Illinois. I think she was one of the teachers, but she was definitely part of. She was on the oversight for this. She was part of it, and that's the person who went on to emotionally abuse a 16-year-old kid. So it sounds to me like there was a lot of stuff going on between University of Illinois and Illinois Nurses Association, huh? Because really what baffled me through this is how I could tell this lawyer who barely could form any words because he was no defense to me. What really gets me is I don't really understand why they asked me to rescind my resignation. I think I know though, and I'll get to it in a minute. Because I had resigned, and it was Illinois Nurses Association that told me rescind it and we'll fight it. But then they didn't fight. They had this lawyer that couldn't use words at all. I mean, he could. He just chose not to. He chose not to be any defense whatsoever. So what I didn't understand, but I clearly understand now better, since there's no way that Illinois Nurses Association didn't know who this chief nursing officer was. They would have known who she was. She was from there, where their largest nursing contract is. And yet she comes in right at the time that the nurses where I was working had just voted in or were getting ready to vote in with Illinois Nurses Association. And yet he says he's going to fight for me, yet none of them wanted to address that this chief nursing officer, I kept telling the lawyer, I'm like, they emotionally, look, he wrote it down. They emotionally abused this boy. Do you not care? No, that's not important. They deflected into everything else. Even up until I went to the nursing board, which I wish all of that would have came out. Instead, it was all over documentation because they couldn't make the case. But those people should have been arrested. This is the heart of corruption, doing this to people. Again, the chief nursing officer that I had that abused that 16-year-old kid, that bribed him to keep quiet. She came from University of Illinois, Chicago. She was on staff there. Illinois Nurses Association, which is the nursing union in Illinois, has their biggest union for nurses contract at University of Illinois. The thing is that hospital I was at never did get a union contract. They closed a year after what they did to me. And the reason they cited for needing to close, because they had to request from the state to be able to close. They said because they couldn't afford to stay open, they were losing money left and right, and the union. And the reason this is important is because this would go hand in hand with your globalization. Because all during that time, there were all these monopolies that were going on, all the hospital mergers, which was all done to help take all of us into their communist, globalist, 17 unsustainable development goal plans. So they needed to get control over as many places as possible. And who came in to buy that hospital was, I think at first it was United Healthcare, and then it went on to be US Vest and Ascend One. See, they changed the name so often. It became US Health Vest, which is part of your global, where everything's under one umbrella. So that's how the unions work with the hospitals. So the union knew, the Illinois Nurses Association, that damn lawyer who did nothing for me because he was in on it. He did nothing because the whole goal of the union wasn't for it to be successful, but to bring a reason why they had to close this hospital. Now the union played like, why do you have to close? Why? They just wanted an excuse. Oh, we have to pay all these fees. The nurses, we can't afford it, and so they were given the okay to close or sell, and so they did, to a globalist organization with the help of University of Illinois Chicago's chief nursing officer, or who was on staff there, then became the chief nursing officer at the hospital I was at that closed. All corrupted globalists that couldn't care less about human life.